At the level of the economy, it means also that there is going to be some squabbles in the economy in terms of a redistribution of goods and services. However, to the consumers, it is going to be thumbs up.
The federal government has continued to be applauded for the deliberate efforts in easing the hardship emerging from soaring commodity prices. And for the latest closing figures on the floor of Nigerian Stock Exchange, here is a graphic summary. That's business news at this hour. I'm Kolo Muhammad.
Thank you very much there, Kolo Muhammad, for the business news. Good morning, Nigeria. Next for us now is a look at the front pages of some of today's newspapers.
Time to, of course, take a look at the newspapers, but not before I introduce our reviewer, Baya Toibo, who is already in the house. Baya, good morning.
Good morning, Clay. Good morning, Kinsley. Good morning, Nigeria.
All right, Baya Toibo, pleasure to have you join us. Let's take a look at the front pages of the papers that we have. Of course, I have a couple of papers, and same with Claire. The story, of course, one of the stories has to do with the Senate confirmation of the nomination of Justice Walter Onnoghen as the substantive Chief Justice of Nigeria. That story is there is the lead story, by the way, of the Daily Times. The Daily Times lists with it and says, at last, Onnoghen is CJN. The Senate confirms him after acting for over 3 months and screening a milestone for Nigeria's democracy. That's according to Saraki. And CJN assures of timely and judicious delivery of justice and advocates diligent investigation of cases before prosecution. So that's it. At last, Onnoghen is CJN, according to the Daily Times. And the story is also there in one of the headlines in the window of headlines below the nameplate of the New Telegraph. It says, CJN's confirmation protect judiciary's integrity. Details of that story can be found on page 10. Now, other headlines from the New Telegraph, just below the nameplate, Biafra. Court strikes out 6 charges against Kanu and others. That's on page 5. And mother, 3 kids murdered inside Lagos church. That's on page 8. Drama as Senate screens 82-year-old ambassadorial nominee. Details of that story on page 10. And above the nameplate, federal government approves new model for restoring refineries efficiency. That's on page 10 in greater detail. And also above that, Senate strips president and minister of power to allocate oil blocks. Senate strips president and minister of power to allocate oil blocks. That's to say that's the authority to allocate oil blocks. Now, the lead story for the New Telegraph says, service chiefs, NSA meet Oshibajo, pledge loyalty. Acting President briefs Buhari on security updates. Sultan orders JNI, imams and ulama to pray for president. And you see the photographs of the Minister of Defense and security chiefs at the meeting with the acting president yesterday. Second list story, nearly at the foot of the front page of New Telegraph. Federal government approves 701 billion naira to boost electricity supply and guarantees gas supplies to Gencos, and generation hits 4,000 megawatts. And that's on page 6 in greater detail. And on page 7, says obesity could cause 11 different types of cancer.
All right, and the authorities next, it has a different lead story, and it's on the IPOB, that's the Indigenous Peoples of Biafra, and it treats IPOB not unlawful, and that has been attributed to the court. It comes with 2 riders, dismisses 6 charges against Kanu and others, and Biafra agitators hail verdict. And the insert there is a picture of the leader of IPOB, that's Mazi Nnamdi Kanu, of course in skull cap with some members of the pro-Biafra and activists at the Federal High Court. Now, of course, the trending story on all the papers today, of course, it's a lead story for some. Confirmation of Onoye as, of course, CJN. Onoye promises rebranded judiciary, and that's how the authority puts its own version. But let me take you a little above the nameplate. Trending stories. Controversy is Nigeria prepares for Islamic Games. This story is on page 4. And illegal recruitment, we've read this also. DSS police detained Peace Corps commandant and 49 others. And really, Bayo, that story is on page 4. Quite interesting story. And the commandant, that's the paraded commandant, is claiming that his group is duly registered and recognized by the authorities that of course have oversight on such a outfit.
Well, the Nigerian police actually that paraded them is saying that they are not registered as a security agency. They are registered as an NGO. And according to the brief, they allege that credible intelligence had indicated that they were an illegal outfit and have started acquiring weapons and conducting military training in different locations around the country. And this, they said, was against the official gazette of 2013 that dissolved all and proscribed all illegal security outfits. However, unfortunately, some of them, the Peace Corps members, are already in hospital recuperating for the injuries because the operation was a joint one involving the police, a section of the army, and the Department of State. Meanwhile, the top of the nation's story is the Senate confirming Justice Walter Samuel Nkanu Onoge as the Chief Justice of Nigeria. What is left now is for the acting president to swear him in. He responded to questions at a committee of the whole of the Senate for a period of 95 minutes. And his highlights were, he assured a reinforcing of independence of the judiciary. He said, you don't need to see a judge to have justice. And he said the judiciary is not against the creation of a special court to try corrupt charges. On his role in the judiciary, he said he wishes that he will restore public confidence in the judiciary because since coming on board, he has in different circulars demanded details of pending matters on corruption, terrorism, and high-profile criminal cases from judicial heads. And he assured that he is still as renowned as a courageous judge that he has been, and he has not changed. However, the circumstances surrounding his nomination, his recommendation by the Judicial Council, forwarding the letter first in October 13th to the presidency, has raised a lot of controversy. Even some of the headlines paper today is started by saying, after 30 years, we will now have a Chief Justice from the southern part of Nigeria. Such information tends to weaken our nation as a united one. If you go by history, the first justice of this country was Justice Stanford Stoughton. After him, we have had indigenous justices since 1958. Between 1958 and 1985, we have had Justice Adetokunbo Ademola, then Teslim Elias, Alexa Danley, Atada Williams, Shode Ndesho, and Ayori Kifke. And for this period of 25 years, they were all from the south. And since Justice Mohammed Bello came in the year 1987 up to 2014, there have been 8 other justices from the north of the country. And people were harping on these differences. Ironically, people forget that the judiciary has established for itself a hierarchy of seniority in ascendancy. And therefore, we should not use these petty sentiments to undermine those fabrics that should weld us together as a nation. The good thing is that at the end of the day, we now have a Chief Justice of Nigeria, not a regional Chief Justice. We need to begin to forget some of these petty sentiments that tend to disunite us.
All right, Bayo, let's return to the front page of the Daily Times newspaper. Daily Times, we already took the lead story, which is on the confirmation of Onoge as CJN. And then below the photograph on the front page, there have other headlines. Saraki pledges partnership with media for survival of democracy. and no evidence to show IPOB is unlawful. That's according to the court. And ex-PAMSEC forfeits 47 cars to federal government. Details of that story on page 7. And the story that Claire already read out and Bayo already discussed. DSS arrests Peace Corps commandant and 40 others. Details on page 7. And 5.1 billion naira unremitted fund. Senate orders investigation of NNPC. And also at the strip at the bottom of the front page, PDP crisis. Sheriff camp extends olive branch to Makarufi's faction. Details of that story on page 6.
Yes, I have a different caption to that story from Daily Trust. And the Daily Trust, it's right just below the nameplate, says Makarufi faction seeks registration of advanced PDP. That story is on page 34. Now, that's contrary to what Kingsley has just read. Our other stories there, of course, we have read out from the other paper, the confirmation of Anohe as CJN. Now, the lead story on the front page of the Daily Trust is Auditor General uncovers 2 billion naira fraud in National Assembly. And, of course, it said it's shrouded in the National Assembly's expenditure. And this is a story according to Daily Trust. Oshibajo chairs Security Council meeting to brief Buhari. And there you see the insert there is the picture story of the acting president, Yemi Oshibajo, Minister of Defense, and of course others at the security meeting at the State House in Abuja. That was yesterday. The story continues on page 7. Now there are trending stories. Sorry, Kingsley, just before you come in. Ex-PAMSEC Igali forfeits 47 cars, and this is coming from the EFCC. The story you can find on page 43. 47 cars forfeited by ex-permanent secretary, and of course the other stories. Now, NNPC shorts Warri refinery over power outage. Yeah, Kingsley.
Yeah, just wanted to go back to the front page of the Punch newspaper, but perhaps before we do that, Bayo can discuss the headlines.
Yes, I quickly want to talk about the issue of the trial. The Federal High Court in Abuja has stricken out 6 of the 11 count of charges preferred against Nnamdi Kanu and 3 others. However, the same court upheld 5 charges, and the 5 charges are: 1, conspiracy to commit treasonable felony; secondly, treasonable felony; and thirdly, publication of defamatory matter; and fourthly, importation of goods contrary to Custom and Excise Act. The 5th charge is illegal possession of firearms. The actual trial is to commence on 20th of March and 21st. Meanwhile, the acting president has clarified that the National Security Council meeting he presided over is a routine engagement of regular briefing. He says it is the idea of the president, and because the president, being a process man, he instituted that, and that has become very germane because of the challenges we are having, like issues of kidnapping. And that is why he said he was going to brief the president accordingly. However, he surmised that a lot has been done. As far as the Northeast is concerned, the insurgencies have been greatly degraded. But however, there's need to be cautious, particularly about incidents of suicide bombing, which we must be very, very cautious about. He said on southern Kaduna, the situation has been contained, and peace building is a matter that is being carried on. Defense Minister Mansour Dan Ali says that the country is very safe, and as security challenges have been all surmounted.
All right, Bayo, let's take a look at the front page of the Punch newspaper now for its own series of headlines. It says, just above the nameplate where we are beginning, it says, Rivers rerun. INEC and police officers face murder, bribery, and money laundering charges. Details of that story can be found on page 7. You also find the confirmation of Onogan there as CJN. And then it says, Senate confirms Onogan. South gets CJN after 30 years. I already addressed that issue. Now, 2 earpieces beside the nameplate. It says, Bauchi governor opposes restructuring and backs constitutional amendment. And Lassa fever hits Borono, 20 quarantined. The lead story is on the xenophobic attacks. That's the kicker. Militants threaten MTN and others as Obasanjo berates South African leaders. Details of that story can be found inside on page 7. And Minister, Service Chiefs brief Oshibajo, planned operation in Kaduna. And Jonathan will lead PDP peace process, says Fayoshe. And Senate probes alleged non-remittance of 5.1 trillion naira by NNPC. And police arrest Peace Corps commandant and 49 others in Abuja. We already discussed that story, plus the dismissal of some of the alleged charges, against Kanu and others. Bayo.
Yes, there is this interesting story. Sexual harassment at Ibrahim Babangida University, Lapai. A lecturer in English was allegedly caught pants down in an off-campus girls' hostel. But the lecturer says he was abducted by some boys and taken there. And the boys contend that his telephone conversation with the lady will reveal the truth about the matter. The university authority is dabbling into it. Don't forget that sexual harassment law has now been passed, and the lecturer stands for a minimum of 15 years imprisonment.
All right. Well, that's the much that we can take, but of course we'll keep you abreast of some developments relating to operations by the police, perhaps if not in the course of this program, in our subsequent bulletins. That's the much we can take by this morning. Thank you for being with us. See you again tomorrow. We'll take a short break now. When we return, we'll be discussing the Amnesty International report for 2016-2017.
Call of change, stand up, Nigeria. Change is here and it's going to stay. Change begins with you. Oh yeah, make we go. Go to so let a change begin from within. Look at you, oh Gerula. Change begins with you and me. Change begins with me. Change begins with me. Change begins with me.
Remi Abera is no ordinary woman. She's an angel to the millions of people who have been displaced and are living in substandard camps throughout Nigeria. We catch up with Remi to find out how her summit attempt went. And you never know when tragedy could strike.
We were 4 in the car. I think he must have got scared or something. And that's all I could remember.
NTA Properties Investment Company Limited, a subsidiary of the Nigerian Television Authority, specializes in creating comfort in all areas of life, such as real estate investments, that is, land, houses, and office spaces, mass leasing, savings and loan scheme, household items and car loans, and so much more. Other information and entertainment services include Property in Style, a TV program that airs on the network service of the NTA, and also Property Connect, a nationwide magazine. Our priority is to bridge poverty gaps and sustain quality welfare of our clients. Partner with us and watch us help you grow. Pay us a visit today at the NTA headquarters permanent site, Area 11 Garki, Abuja, or our Lagos office at number 15 Awolowo Road, Ikoyi, Lagos. For more information, visit our website on www.ntaproperties.com.ng, or you can email us on ntapic2000@yahoo.com. Call us on 080-2316-3474 or 080-6939-5185 or 070-3189-0555. NTA Properties Investment Company Limited. The much needed help at your doorstep.
All right, you're welcome back. But if you just joined us, it's Good Morning Nigeria. We are reaching you live on the network service of the Nigerian Television Authority. A moment ago, while we were signing off Bayo Atoebe during the newspaper review segment, we did indicate that the police authorities had some information which we'd like to share with you now. It's breaking news. The police indicate that in the early hours of this morning, that's about 6 hours ago, they killed Henry Chibueze, also known as Vampire. According to the police, it was a notorious kidnapping, kingpin, and he recently escaped from the custody of prison warders in the court in Owerri. Now, the police spokesman, Jimoh Ibrahim, says Vampire was killed at about 1 a.m., as I indicated this morning, somewhere in Ikwere local government area of Rivers State. And this was during a gun battle with police special forces. 5 members of the gang were arrested and are now in police custody. Once again, to indicate that the police authorities are saying that, that's Jimoh Moshood, police spokesperson, not Jimoh Ibrahim, police spokesperson Jimoh Moshood, indicating that the police authorities killed Vampire, that's his nickname, who recently escaped from the custody of prison warders in the court in Owerri. According to the police authorities, 5 other gang members were arrested. So that's it. We'll continue to give you updates, Claire, with regard to the story that the police authorities have just released.
Of course, and like we said, this is Good Morning Nigeria, and this morning we are discussing the Amnesty International's 2016-2017 report on Nigeria's human rights status. And let's take this background from Omotola.
The security challenges in Nigeria has left a sour taste in the mouths of not just the government and citizens of the country, but also a not-so-good impression on the rest of the world about the nation. Ranging from Boko Haram crisis in the northeast to militancy in the south-southern region, the activities of pro-Biafra in the southeast, and the explosion of kidnappings across the land, Nigeria has had to deal with one too many social vices. These activities have led to loss of lives, properties, including the nation's natural resources, and left many internally displaced and the economy in a precarious position. To defend our unity and uphold our honor and glory, a section of a Nigerian national pledge needed to be activated, and that perhaps explains the various military interventions in the different parts of the country where troops fight for resource protection and territorial control to maintain the country's sovereignty, protect lives and property. The loss obviously not one-sided. Nigerians have, however, not settled with the joy of a technical victory over the insurgents in the northeast by the military troops before an amnesty report is pointing out war crimes as allegedly perpetrated by the ones who should be protective. The nation and a military have been accused of arbitrary arrest and illegal detention of citizens, including children and nursing mothers, extrajudicial killing, alleged execution of some 640 detainees in Giwa camp in Maiduguri, among others. The international organization also cited the killing of some 150 protesters in the southeast, oil spill in the south-south, corporate accountability among human rights abuses cutting across the freedom of expression and inhibition of expression of sexual preference. The military has, however, referred to the allegation as malicious, even as a section of a civil society described it as a conspiracy to undermine the nation. This sentiment is shared by a majority of Nigerians who are happy with the military performance, which not only restored confidence in the land, but also make many to believe in the nation once again.
All right, Mojola, thank you very much there for that background report. Now we have guests with us in the studios to discuss further aspects of the Amnesty International report for 2016-2017. First, we'd like to welcome the Director of Defense Information, Brigadier General Rabe Abubakar. General, a pleasure to have you.
Thank you very much
in our studios.
Thank you very much.
Okay, and then we also have with us Mr. Tony Ojukwu of the National Human Rights Commission. Mr. Ojukwu, a pleasure to have you in our studios.
Thank you very much.
Okay, Claire?
All right, let's quickly start. We have a third guest, but we will introduce him to you as soon as, of course, we sort out one or two things. And let's start with Mr. Ojukwu, of course, of the National Human Rights Commission. Mr. Ojukwu, we would just like you to quickly evaluate our human rights status, as regards 2016-2017.
Well, from the standpoint of the Commission, there is continuous improvement in the situation of human rights in the country. People are more conscious about their rights. As at the end of last year, Nigeria, the Commission had received a minimum of 1,000 complaints. This is unlike before when people were not conscious of their rights because we had massive human rights awareness campaign. There has been improved collaboration between government agencies on protection and promotion of human rights. And that shows that a lot of people have more confidence that their rights, if violated and they lay a complaint, it will be addressed. And then, of course, yes, there are still infractions of human rights. There's no perfect situation. But the good news is that if your rights are violated, something can be done. You have a place to go and complain, unlike before, during the days of the military regime. Even pro-democracy advocates, civil society organizations, and even the commission was not even in existence by then. But so I can say that Nigerians are getting more conscious about their rights. They know where to go and claim their rights. Their rights are being addressed. It's not yet uhuru, it's not yet a perfect situation, but I think there's continuous improvement in the protection of human rights in the country.
Okay, I was just wondering, Claire, yes. It was under the military that indeed the Human Rights Commission was created. Part of the groundwork for that incidentally happened under General Sani Abacha.
Yeah.
At the time, Professor Awalu Yadudu was special advisor on legal matters. If you recall, Geneva was always a spot where Geneva, that's to say United Nations Human Rights Commission, was the ground where Nigeria was often pilloried and its human rights record laid bare before the entire world. So one of the steps taken was, of course, the establishment of the Human Rights Commission. Isn't that the case?
Yeah, that was the case. But then, with what kind of powers did the commission have then? Did it have the powers to actually realize its mandate? The government in 2010 amended the Act of the Commission. You recall those days, if the Executive Secretary of Human Rights Commission criticized the government, he'll be removed from office. But that is no longer the case now, because the Commission and their members now cannot be removed at the whims and caprices of the executive.
So what license do you have now that you didn't have in the past?
The powers we have now, we have the power to compel you to come and give evidence, to come and submit to the Commission. If the decisions of the Commission are taken now, it can be registered as a decision of the High Court and is enforceable as if it's a decision of the High Court. It is an offense if you refuse to come to the Commission, if lawful directives are given to you, and you can be prosecuted and jailed for it. And of course, we have the powers to, to carry out our investigations in any way we deem appropriate. And of course, our finances now are under the direct charge on government. So the difference is not as if we are getting enough. We don't ever get enough. But whatever you get, at least you are sure it will be released to you. So there's much better now. The powers now are targeted at making us effective, unlike before when it was just obligatory. It was not obligatory. If you summon somebody and he didn't come to you, for instance, you cannot do anything. If you take a decision and people don't obey it, there's nothing you can do. So under the military, Abacha, the powers of the commission were just persuasive, kind of. Unlike now.
Okay, now from the perspective of the, of the National Human Rights Commission, and with regards to the fight against terrorism and the fight against, insurgency in the Northeast, what is our human rights status, from your perspective?
Of course, insurgency is a phenomenon that took Nigeria by surprise. Nobody prepared for it. We have never been used to it. So you will appreciate that immediately it took us like a storm. Everybody started running helter-skelter to see how can we implement this project with the collateral damages associated to it in such a way that human rights will not be a victim. So immediately this happened. Of course, there were complaints of human rights violations in the Northeast. We have a project, the National Human Rights Commission had a project on monitoring of human rights violations in the hitherto emergency states. And when such violations are identified, we take steps to redress them. Of course, the IDP camps is another area where human rights violations are likely to be violated. the General Monitoring of Human Rights, we had a program with the UNDP, which was to monitor the general situation of human rights in the Northeast. We have published a report on that. Now, we also monitor the IDP camps with the Office of United Nations High Commissioner for Refugees. And the idea is to make sure that IDPs that are vulnerable, of course, they are vulnerable people, that their rights are protected while they're in the camps, that basic humanitarian assistance is also given to them. So we work with NEMA on that, we work with the Refugee Commission on that, and of course, the Office of the United Nations High Commissioner for Refugees. And right now, the Commission is also partnering with the Nigerian Army in a project which is funded by the EU to promote human rights accountability in the Northeast. That project is targeted at the human rights violations that the people of the Northeast are complaining that either the military or the civilian JTF have committed. We want to partner with the military on that, train them on the basic human rights that should be used in counterinsurgency operations. After training them, we agree with them to look at their code of conduct and rules of engagement to see how human rights can be mainstreamed into them. Now, after that, of course, the issue of accountability comes in, because if you have been equipped with the basic knowledge on how to mainstream human rights into your work, that now makes accountability very viable. And we intend to work with the Nigerian Army closely on this. We are moving to the Northeast states from the 6th. We are visiting Borno, Adamawa, and Yobe to discuss with the military high command in those areas. We are also discussing with the Nigerian Bar Association. We have an MOU with the Nigerian Bar Association that will help to deal with cases that could possibly arise from this. We have CSO monitors and NHRC monitors in the states in the Northeast that are working with the Army to investigate any violations that are complained against the Nigerian Army or civilian JTF. And we intend that under this project, we use that platform if anybody, any military officer, if any civilian JTF violates human rights, we'll investigate these issues together, and we can use the court-martial to bring such a person to account. We can use the high court to bring such a person to account. We can also recommend to the Attorney General for prosecution. So there are a lot going on to make sure that the counterinsurgency operations are carried out in such a way that there will be maximum respect for human rights and accountability.
All right, Mr. Tony Ojukwu, thank you very much. Of course, we'll come back to you in the course of this conversation. Just to, as my colleague Claire indicated earlier, we have a third guest with us in Abuja here. He is Mr. Terence Kwanom. He's of the Global Amnesty Watch. Mr. Kwanom, it's our pleasure to have you on the program.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Okay, but this is not Amnesty International, and we also need to state to our viewers that for purposes of this conversation today, we had invited Amnesty International, their representative in this country, to be part of this discussion. Now, there was some information that they were going to be with us today, but last night they then indicated that they will be unavailable for the discussion today, but regardless, we are proceeding with the conversation. Mr. Kwanom, once again, it's our pleasure to have you. You are not of Amnesty International.
Yeah, I'm of the Global Amnesty Watch.
Yeah, of Global Amnesty Watch. Well, let's also get your views as to the human rights situation in the country 2016-2017 before we get into the nitty-gritty of the Amnesty report, and then also bring in General Rabi Abubakar.
Okay, the main objective of the Global Amnesty Watch is to make sure that international actors does not come to undermine the stability of countries. And we are in Nigeria today investigating the report of the Amnesty Watch because of the outcry that came from the public, from the state actors about the report that they gave this year. And we found out that most of what they came and they did in Nigeria was about hearsay because we as Global Amnesty Watch ourselves has received reports of human rights abuses, and we have written to the human rights desk of the Nigerian Army. And only time they are investigating the reports we give to them. They call us and we come. And in the process, personnel at court martials, some were even dismissed and all that. So we came and investigated, and we were surprised how they were able to come about a report that was baseless.
What is the nature of the report?
The report, if you go through the report, the report is even stating as if it is the Nigerian army that is even instigating the crisis in the northeast. The report is as if the military goes against the rules of engagement. They just go and see people in a village, gather them together, and shoot them. The report is as if they just go in the northeast, carry people, and go and put in detention without trial or without any evidence. And now we begin to ask questions. How were you able to get this report? At what location, at what time did they make such arrest? And they fail to realize that the same Boko Haram, they are saying their right has been abused, use military uniform. During the Jonathan era, that this thing was so much, we were aware that military uniform were seized, their hardware were seized, vehicles were seized. We are aware that when they went to carry the Boko Haram girls, they used military uniforms. They were deceptive to them, that were carrying them for safety. We are aware that they used military uniforms to go and attack people. We are aware that they gone down, even their members, carried them and dumped in the way of the Nigerian military. How do they substantiate this report to know that these abuses were caused by the Nigerian military? That is our question.
Okay, Mr. Kwanem, you did say that one of your objectives is to stop Amnesty International from undermining stability of countries. What exactly do you mean by that?
Such reports that Amnesty International give to countries is definitely to undermine their stabilities. Like if in Nigeria, for instance, now, everybody in Nigeria is appreciating the military, that they are making inroad to end the Boko Haram. There have already been campaigns that citizens should join the military so that this thing will end, because now that they have dispersed them from the Sambisa, they are running and they are moving around now. Now that is a stability. The country has been successfully accepted and applauded the defeat of Boko Haram by the Nigerian army. Citizens are joining the Nigerian military to be able to end this cause. Now you bring up the report. This will bring instability because people will start raising doubts again. If you tell people now to go to the crisis area, they will be raising doubts because from the report, it's as if all that is going on in the Northeast is human rights abuses. So obviously, even if you are an international organization, you want to go there and assist people in the camps, you might be afraid that if the military comes across you, they might hold you in the process of coming to gather people for arrest or killing them. This will bring a lot of instability and the kind of confidence that have been restored in the Northeast.
Well, Mr. Kwanem, we will discuss the motives or aspects of some of these international reports subsequently because of this bulletin. But let's bring in General Rabi Abubakar now. He's Director of Defense Information. Of course, he speaks for the. Well, he doesn't want us to confirm him yet. He says acting. I think we don't have too many acting persons now. The CJ, we have a new CJ and a new CJ designate, but EFCC is still acting. But you are acting Director of Defense Information, of course, a one-star general. Because General Rabi Abubakar, this is a very serious issue that we are discussing. Right? Tony Ojukwu of the Human Rights Commission has given his own perspectives, matters that have been handled. In the course of our bulletin, as well as in various news accounts, the military has rebutted aspects of the Amnesty International report. But this would appear, to be a regular affair. From time to time, the Amnesty International comes up with its reports alleging gross violation of human rights in the course of its counter-insurgency campaign. What exactly is the perspective of the Nigerian military to these accounts? Is it the case that, your men and officers are running riot, over the Northeast?
Well, thank you very much. The Armed Forces of Nigeria is mandated through the relevant, chapters of the Constitution that it must be seen maintaining law and order in relation to, in aid of civil authority. And military all over the world, is there to ensure that the territorial integrity the lives and property of the citizens and those who are domiciled here are adequately protected. And what we do is not in aberration of the constitutional provision. We are into the Northeast, which is not a conventional law. It's something asymmetric. And asymmetric nature of conflicts has come with its own problems. One of which is you can't even define the enemy you are fighting with, and these are people who you don't know them, and you must be seen adopting a very unique tactics and operations to ensure that you suppress them, mindful of, quote and unquote, the human right and the dignity of individual. We are in the course of these operations, we are very much mindful of the human rights and the relevant conventions of the United Nations and charters. So we are operating within that limit. In addition to that, we come up with our own doctrine at the strategic level, then coming down to rules of engagements. SOP, we call it SOP, that is standing operational procedures. In addition to code of conduct, these are things that are guiding our own conduct of operations. And all this in all these layers, or in all these doctrines or provisions or rules of engagement, we inject the issue of human rights, of that human rights, because you cannot in any way, in the course of this thing, you dehumanize or you tamper with the rights of innocent citizens. However, we may want to believe that the Nigerian Armed Forces of today is not the Nigerian Armed Forces of yesterday. We have come a long way, in this issue of internal security operations, which ordinarily is not supposed to be our mandate. But constitutionally, 207, sub 2, we are empowered to ensure that we assist the relevant civil authority, to suppress insurrections, and militancy, and all other internal security challenges that could pose serious threats, to this country. And additionally, what we did of recent is to ensure that all our operational areas, just as my good friend said, we opened Office of Human Rights desk in all our operational areas, in all our formations and units. And in addition to the doctrines we are having, in addition to the code of conduct, in addition to the rule of engagements, which we set for ourselves. So any different behaviors being done by any member of the armed forces, it could not be seen to be an official official manifestation of what he does. You understand? It's purely personal. As we see a recent time, what happened even in Uruguay, something happened very unfortunately, and we don't tolerate anything that has to do with affecting, or anything to do with demonizing or affecting the human rights of our citizens and notably. So we are very much mindful of all these things. And however, we may not rule out some isolated cases, which is most times individual behavioral exhibitions, not official conduct, which is expected by military personnel wherever he is, either in front line or in other peacekeeping operations within the country or outside. We have that, and we have an internal disciplinary mechanism that we applied in any situations where any personnel violate this issue of set conducts for our military. So we don't tolerate it officially, and if it comes, we deal with the case as enshrined in our internal disciplinary mechanism.
Okay. At what stage, based on the SOP that you operate, so at what volume or magnitude would such isolated cases of infractions would you consider to be human rights? Would you label as, an abuse, human rights abuse?
No, yes. Well, most times is individual exuberance. You understand? Which, if you gather, millions of people in one place, definitely you should expect them to behave, distinctly, differently, even when there is law that or laws.
I asked this question because according to the Amnesty International's report, it cites activities of the Nigerian military in different parts of,
I'm coming to that. You see, what is a report? A report is a compendium of various parts and figures, having heard from both sides. You understand? It's only when you heard from both sides that you can be able to establish a coherent and acceptable report that could be used either domestically or internationally. But in the case of the Amnesty International, their report is one-sided, and their report is not different from the reports they have been releasing in the previous times.
They claim to have used over or viewed hundreds of videos, eyewitnesses. Have you subjected these sources to further investigation? Probably, like you said, in previous interviews you've granted, forensic investigation to confirm its authenticity. Yeah, we do. We do. And most unfortunately is this. You see, when you are doing this kind of, was the person or persons there? And if they had, from who did they gather all the information? They said they had from the relatives of the victims. Ordinarily, under normal circumstances, when you come to ask me about myself or something to do with me, I will give a positive scenario. You understand? They would have gone extra mile, and most significant, why should even the military go ahead and kill harmless, human beings? Hundreds of people. You can imagine, even if those guys are chickens, how are you going to pack them? Not talk of human beings. You understand? So I think the report is just, they are just trying to incite, some section of this country against the military. And mind you, when there is politicization of security, then that's the beginning of danger in any nation. You understand? Yeah, we are trying as much as possible. If you look at our modus operandi, we are spread all over the country. And why? For the maintenance of peace or law and order. It creates an enabling environment, a security environment that could be conducive for everybody to know that, yes, he has an armed forces and security agencies that are, co-opted or taken to take care of them. And that's the principle what we are doing. We are not against any group or any human beings in this part of the country.
Yeah, just I would like you to also explain this. Does Amnesty International or any of its accredited reporter or agent interact with the Nigerian military in terms of seeking either corroboration or denial of the videos or accounts that they have heard from other sources?
No, actually no. And I'm going to give credence to human rights group. We have been interacting on so many issues, very national important issues. But Amnesty International felt that there is no need for them to come and have any interaction with them. They are court, they are judges, they are police, they are judges, and they can pass any judgment as they feel fit. Unfortunately for them, Nigerians, either in diaspora or here, come to know, what we are doing to ensure that the security of this country is paramount. And Amnesty has never, for one day, come to us for any clarifications. The human rights group came just last 2-3 weeks, okay, where they confronted us about the issue of those hundreds of soldiers who are dismissed. When we explained to them, they are better informed, and they now have an official bashing that we cannot, in any way doctored. We are open. You understand? And our leaders have never has never cautioned us to deny information to anybody. And that's how we work now. And unfortunately, none of them came. You understand? So for them to go and concoct this kind of thing, I remember this is an ICT era. You understand? We have what we call cropping. Okay? Cropping is possible. You can do it once you have the the instruments, once you have the hardware, once you have the software, you can do anything. Okay, if you made up your mind to ensure that you mess up your security apparatus, and if you mess up your security apparatus, then the question you will ask yourself is, who else can we now come to replace those you messed up? Are you going to employ anybody to come and become the military that protect you and the larger society? Or what are you trying to say?
What is your reaction once again to the claim by Amnesty International that there have been mass arrests and detention without trial, extrajudicial killings of innocent men, women, and children?
Hey, but why were they affected? Were they killed? Are they not in the country? If we are killing, then were they there? And if they were there, were they killed? The answer is no. So invariably, the report is completely fabricated. It's a report that is not the true reflection of the Nigerian armed forces and security agencies. We are paid and given the opportunity to service our country, which we are trying to do, with all, as contained in other best global, practices, and that's what we are doing. So the Amnesty report, honestly speaking, so the list is one-sided, and it's a report which no country in the world, because if you berate your military, that means you are not doing it only to the military, but to the country at large. You are now saying we should progress from normalcy to animal farm, where might is right. That's what they are advocating, and they are trying to bring trying to cause internal problem into this country. In addition to what we are having, Amnesty had never one day condemned the activities of Boko Haram right from the inception to date. And I'm telling you, if I forgot to, I would have come with a clip here. There was a clip for good 1 hour. Boko Haram were shooting people in Burma at a very close range and putting them in the stream. That stream for good 2 weeks, it had been flowing red because of the blood of human beings that have been there. And Amnesty was seeing all these things.
Okay, you asked the question. You asked the question.
You understand?
Sorry, Brigadier. Kingsley asked the question if the Nigerian military, had interactions with Amnesty, and you said no. But I was trying to get out the report where they claim to have met with several security agencies, including the Chief of Army Staff, including, all the security services.
Yeah,
and there was no reply from your end.
What I'm saying is this, okay? If you are writing a report, your report can only be complete when you hear from the both parties. That is the normal thing. Defense headquarters and service headquarters had never closed its doors to anybody.
Why was there no response from the side of the Nigerian military? If they had actually, extended, what they have found to you?
Let me tell you, if there is anything like that, I must know. And to the best of I know, but I've just mentioned the human rights group. Okay? If they didn't do that, I wouldn't have mentioned them. But they came and we interacted with them. Amnesty had never written to us. I am telling you, either before or now, had never written to us. Okay? So that report is just a report to satisfy what I may refer to as, something which they are used to, okay, trying to, incite people against their own military, trying to create. They don't even know the implications of what they have done. Because if they view the implications of what that settlement, or the report they sent, I believe they wouldn't have done that. Because this is something to do with the country, a sovereign country for that matter. And in any case, international organizations have 3 opportunities which they must observe. One of which is neutrality. Okay? You don't involve in local politics. You don't take side. You don't, trying to bring down the sovereignty of a nation. And most importantly, you must be seen, collaborating. And in all this 5 I mentioned, Amnesty had done none of this. The only thing they did was to go and write that report, which we rejected in its entirety.
Well, Brigadier General Rabi Abubakar, we'll come back to you. Mr. Tony Ojukwu, let's take a look at this again. Now, Amnesty has its own report. Human Rights Commission, of course, has, from what you indicated, its own role and activities of engagement and so on and so forth. Is there a sense in which the accounts by Amnesty International will come into tension with the findings of the Human Rights Commission? Yeah. And then, as a corollary, what do you know about the mechanism or the methodology of the compilation of such amnesty reports?
Well, in the first place, for you to, the process of compilation of a report, there's what you call a validation and critique of a report. What it means is that when you finish a draft report, before you can publish that report, you need to engage the necessary stakeholders who are also part of the compilation of the report or who have some knowledge about the area of the compilation to scrutinize the facts that are going to be released in that report, so that when that report is released, you can say, yes, this report has satisfied all the necessary ingredients to become factual, and researchers and everybody can use them as factual situations. I don't see that happening in amnesty reports, because they have not even engaged Human Rights Commission. If you are discussing human rights of Nigeria, common sense dictates that you need to engage the Human Rights Commission of Nigeria, at least on human rights issues already in Nigeria. They have not done so. My colleague also there, who is also in the civil society, has also said that they were not engaged in any process on the confirmation of this report. But let me even say, looking critically at the amnesty report, when you criticize, we are taught that when you criticize, you do constructive criticism. You don't criticize for the sake of just vilifying or running down a country or an organization. You criticize in such a way that you help them to improve. You give facts that can help the authorities investigate. For instance, if you say in a report that military men were sexually abusing IDPs in the camps, how many IDP camps do we have in the country? You would expect that if that kind of report comes, National Human Rights Commission will want to go and investigate this. You would expect that the military authorities who have been accused will want to go and investigate that. Now, how have you helped anybody to investigate that? In fact, there was one particular time when there was a report like that. So we went out to go and start investigating. Well, what we found out was that somebody who was not an officer, somebody who was not a law enforcement agent, either the police or military or civil defense or whatever that was operating in the barracks, had a sexual relationship with somebody in the camp. Now, when this was discovered, it was reported to the police. The person was arrested and was being prosecuted. But for Amnesty International, it is members of the Nigerian military that have done that. When there was an attack in Giwa barracks, if you look at the report, they said almost 640 people were killed by the military. Now, we went to investigate this with the military. The explanation of the military to us was that, of course, during the, you would expect that if Boko Haram attacked a military barracks, there will be crossfire and some people are going to die.
But they also talked about the conditions in which those people suspected people and were kept.
I'm trying to look at the basis of the report to show you that there are some basic fallacies in the report. There are some basic things in the report that if you look at them critically, you'll find out that this report is not aimed at helping people to improve or investigate or make people accountable.
So what interest would Amnesty International have in doing all of this?
So the issue then is who is giving them the information. Are they getting their information from Boko Haram, for instance? If they're not getting the information from the military, they're not getting the information from Human Rights Commission or some civil society actors. So who will be recording the shooting of people detained in Giwa barracks when there is an attack by Boko Haram? Who is likely going to record that? It's possible Boko Haram who want to record that and use it I don't think any military person or any civilian around who is going to be able to do that. So we have to be careful when we see some of these reports to scrutinize them and query them and see what is the logic. Is it logical? Is this possible in the circumstance? As a lawyer, whenever I get any information, I look at it critically and see, even from common sense, even from basic knowledge of what can happen in a situation like this, is this likely?
But I'm wondering, in terms of, I don't want to use the word prestige, for want of a better word. Whenever Amnesty International issues this report, I mean, it gains almost global publicity. Why, do stakeholders often seem, to gobble up whatever Amnesty International reports?
Because people don't query things. People just, if you put anything on the newspaper now, and it is negative, people are excited. In fact, the headlines don't go far if there are positive things. If CNN is reporting negative things, people are more interested. So it's a natural human instinct. But for us in investigation and monitoring and research place, we need to query certain things, because we don't accept things hook, line, and sinker. They must be verified. They must be verifiable. If you want the facts you are pushing out, Amnesty must have a way to make things they are reporting verifiable. Otherwise, it's not scientific. Otherwise, it cannot stand the test of any research questioning. That is the issue.
Okay, Mr. Terence Kwanom of the Global Amnesty Watch. Once again, earlier you were talking about some of the things that you had observed, or your NGO had observed, along with other monitors of human rights situations, and you were querying the basis and the motive of the Amnesty International in its latest account. Would like to speak more as to what Mr. Ojukwu was talking about a moment ago?
Yeah. If you look at that report, and you look at the previous report they have given, we from the Global Amnesty Watch, what we are even more worried now is the sponsorship that is bringing up that. Let's be very open about this. Because the military have been able to take over our captured territory from the insurgents, obviously the people that were sponsoring these people against us have resorted to Amnesty International to be using it to destabilize the military. Because if you look at that report, there is no basis at all. Because they are all tailored. If you look at this report, from the Boko Haram insurgents to the IPOB report they have published, these are tailored reports. And they have skipped very sensitive things that no country, no sovereign nation will be able to condone. 80 people gathered in a village, shot, recorded, and sent a video. If you ask Amnesty International, produce a certain video that have claimed they have gotten their information from, they have never. We've been challenging Amnesty International for years to bring their videos. Amnesty International, at the point, made the GOC of 7th Division to be dismissed from the military. And when the man was being tried and they asked for evidence, there was no evidence. The man is reinstated back into the military. Go to the issue of IPOB. They said that they went to Abba. People were praying, and the next thing, they shot them. Where is the video? There is no evidence. They went to Onitsha. They said that people were celebrating the independence of Biafra. They said they came and shot and killed IPOB. They didn't tell us that 2 police officers that were monitoring that protest were killed. They didn't tell us that 2 police officers were thrown into the River Niger. They didn't tell us that a military man was killed. All they told us was that IPOB members were killed. All these things, if you put them together, you begin to wonder who is sponsoring these people to run this country down. Because as long as from our investigation, we have discovered that there is zero tolerance in human rights abuses in what is happening with the military operations. We have monitored them closely. We have our clips. We have visited the defense headquarters. We have visited the theater command of Officer Rafi Adole. We have visited the government of Borno. We have been to Goza. We have been to Biu. We have been to Bama. We even coordinated with the National Coalition Against Terrorism. They did a rally when Sambisa was captured. We went there. We heard the views of the civilians and the security personnel. So if you look at these reports critically and the claims they make, they have no basis at all. And then it's coming from sponsorship. And we from the Global Amnesty Watch are part of the things we advise from sponsorship from state actors, because they can make you to tailor your reports.
What do you know with regard to the sources of the information that normally would be compiled into a report. How do they get their information? Do you have, how do they, what methods do they use?
You know why we believe that this is tailored? This is the social media era. And if truly I'm in this studio now and the scene is happening, I don't need you or I don't need anybody to go and have one special clip to give a report. All of us here, coincidentally, we might have our own visions of recording. It is not the matter of Amnesty alone having records of attacks. And like I told you earlier, most of these attacks, if you look at the report, they are stage managed. Somebody planned to come and do a certain operation and record it and go and blackmail somebody. What is happening to the security institution in this country is blackmail. Because these are tailored reports. Because only the clip Amnesty is claiming they have, that is being said in the report. Nobody else has the report. And they line up 80 people to shoot. Only one person came out with 4 wounds to come and give the report to Amnesty. So is the person a magician that out of 80 people, he was saved and he could have to come and give a report? These things look childish. And this is the sovereign state being undermined here.
Mr. Kwanum,
Yes.
we have all, either condemned the report in its entirety or we are saying it is loop-sided. But I'm wondering, in a state of war such as that we have in the Northeast and other parts of the country, is it possible to have a perfect situation, a situation where all human rights will be respected?
Yes. From what we saw, let me tell you, this war has been running for about 6 years. I am discussing this report based on when 2 years ago, when this new leadership of the military came. I never investigated the military when outside the leadership of General Buratai, but I started investigating the issue of the military during the leadership of General Buratai. And I'm telling you authoritatively, because I have been to those areas. I have seen the way human personnel are being protected. I have interacted with international organizations. If you go to Maiduguri, you see that the whole of Maiduguri has been taken over by international organizations and NGOs. They are there moving freely. If human rights abuses are going on in war situations, you will not see, you only see Red Cross around war situations because you know that both sides are protected. But for the influx of NGOs and international organizations moving to the Northeast to either take care of the sick people in the camp or go and treat wounds for this operation, it means that human rights abuses are being protected. No international organization or NGO will send its personnel where human rights abuses are being carried out. Okay, because obviously they will be in the line of danger. Just shortly before we go on a break, are you denying that there's been no atom of torture going on or ever carried out? There is no torture going on as long as this war is concerned, because, like I told you, what I'm telling you is not that it's not a hearsay report. I have been there. I have been to Operation Lafayette Dole. I have been to their detention facilities. So if human rights abuses are going on in the detention facilities, I will be aware. I have my report also to write. I will put it in my report. And they open their human rights decks in such a way that even the personnel that have been accused, if they are being tried, we are invited.
All right. Well, Mr. Terence Kwanum, thank you very much for what you've for your opinion. But just before we go on this short break, while we are still on this subject, Mr. Tony Ojukwu, there have been reports from time to time indicating that yes, some persons were arrested in the Northeast in the course of the counter-insurgency operation. There have also been reports about the release of persons from detention. These are men, women, and children. What is the basis for the release from your findings of those persons? Is it that, that they found after their thorough investigation that there was no need, there was no basis for their continued detention?
Yeah, from because the National Human Rights Commission has a quarterly dialogue with the military. We insist, and the military has really opened up to collaborate with the Commission on Human Rights Issues. So we'll have a quarterly dialogue. During this dialogue, all issues, there's no hold back on anything, any complaint against the military operations on human rights are put on the table, and we question them. Now, they have a profiling system through which anybody who is arrested in the course of the counter-insurgency operations is profiled, and if at the end of the profiling they come to the conclusion that this person is innocent, it has nothing to do, the person is released. In fact, the last time we visited the Giwa barracks, the next day they released about 199 people. Now, if there are some people who were involved in Boko Haram activities but have confessed, there's Operation Safe Corridor now, which is a de-radicalization process for those affected. Now, those that are probably hardened Boko Haram people are handed over for prosecution. And a couple of prosecutions are going on in several courts all over the country.
Yeah. Amnesty did refer to profiling. Now, is profiling a crime? Is it a human right abuse?
No.
As a method?
Now, we are in a war situation. We are in a war situation. With the Boko Haram insurgency, for instance, I was looking at the report, and they were saying that people were being arrested indiscriminately. Now, when there is a war situation like the counter-insurgency operations, once you suspect, you arrest. Then you do a kind of profiling, and it's not when the person has detonated the bomb. That is the time, because if you are saying on reasonable suspicion, are you going to leave the man to detonate the bomb first, then you confirm your suspicion before you now arrest him? There's no opportunity. So you must take a proactive step to be ahead, one step ahead, to be able to contain a terrorist attack.
All right. Gentlemen, we'll take a short break now. And when we come back, we've received, of course, tweets that have come in their torrents. You can see. We'll take those tweets when we return.
Don't allow this thing to disgrace me.
It started with a race over nothing and something. Soon, the race became an issue. But what issue is an issue when the reason for the issue is not an issue?
People just they run for that. I don't know what they pursue them. Why would they run now? Somebody tell me, why should I run?
Join us in 100 meters this week on Professor John Bull. Another refreshing episode of your rib-cracking comedy and social satire.
Hello there. Again,
showing at 8:30 p.m. every Tuesday and Friday on NTA Network International and Star Times.
Medea, are you people safe? Hey,
over and out.
Brought to you by Glow.
Welcome to the new speed of life.
Okay, sir. You may now go in for your interview.
Thank you. Ah, my shoe. And to think I just bought this very expensive foreign shoe 2 months ago.
So sorry about your shoes. This is why I advise my friends to always patronize made in Nigeria product. See this shoe. It's made in Nigeria and I've had it for 2 years and it's still as good as the day I bought it.
Made in Nigeria products are good quality. And stringent government regulations and certification now mean the goods made in Nigeria meet international standards. Make the patriotic choice today. Buy right. Buy Made in Nigeria.
This is a public service announcement brought to you by NTA.
All right, you're welcome back. It's still Good Morning Nigeria on the network service of the Nigerian Television Authority. As my colleague Claire indicated a moment ago, we have a number of tweets that have come in, and we'll take them right away. Ibrahim Tudu. Unfortunately, Amnesty International becomes a propaganda outfit of the West rather than being a human rights NGO.
Festus Akimboewa, instead of our military discrediting and rejecting Amnesty 2016 report on Nigeria, it should see it as an opportunity to retrain and reform.
Tudu again says Amnesty International has been silent when Nigeria was being wrecked by Boko Haram and militants. They sympathize with criminals.
And Abu Malik tweets, it's a fact that the Nigerian army, military in this case, violates human rights. But in 2016, its good deeds outweighs the bad ones. Let's give them a chance.
And Maroon Shedi tweets, thanks to Mr. Ojukwu and the other guests in the house, that's in the studio here, but I think human rights protection should begin from the family.
And Law Alpha C. The Nigerian Army was expected to accomplish a lot without enough funding and motivation, hence their frustration and few mistakes.
Waziri Bukar tweets, don't mind the pro-Boko Haram Amnesty International, silent on Boko Haram and harsh against the military.
Sani Michael Omakoji, while we commend the military for protecting government properties in these areas, it's equally inhuman, the killings we've seen thus far.
Franklin Ofoma, the military have done a great job in terms of security, but the standard elements of rules of engagement in handling IPOB call for questioning. Engineer
Y.U. Yauro, my advice to Amnesty International is for them not to ridicule the efforts made by the Nigerian military. They should show some professionalism in their conduct.
Franklin Ofoma continues, Brigadier, that's Brigadier General Rabi Abubakar, can you tell Nigerians what happens to our rules of engagement when handling peaceful protests across the country?
And Enoch Ayuk tweets, Nigerian Army should from time to time train its personnel on human rights abuses. It appears this is the missing link.
Ibrahim Tudu again. So killing terrorists and militants is violation of human rights, but Western leaders accused of genocide and war crimes were shielded.
Again, Engineer Y.U. Yaro tweets, from the way I see this Amnesty International report is that they want to incite the citizens of the Northeast against the Nigerian Army. We support the Nigerian Army.
Another one from Festus Akimboye. Well, as we are scrutinizing Amnesty International 2016-2017 report on Nigeria, the military should release their own report with evidence so we can scrutinize it.
And finally, so far, Mustafa Megawa tweets, Nigerians are used to the antics of Amnesty International. We in the Northeast appreciate and celebrate our gallant soldiers. I think that's a good note to end the tweets.
Well, if we have another set, of course, yes, if we're able to, if we have enough time, we can take the other set of tweets when they do come in. General Rabi Abubakar, one of the issues raised in the tweets now has to do with operational engagements, you know, in internal security matters, other than dealing with Boko Haram in the Northeast. IPOB is one issue, for instance. There have been various accounts, including a particular Amnesty report saying that innocent IPOB protesters, you know, tens of them have been shot at point-blank range.
Well, unfortunately, or let me just put it this way, that Nigerian armed forces, like any other armed forces in the world, are considered to be the last line of defense. They're always in the last line of defense. But in these circumstances, we have to be seen cooperating, you know, with other security agencies to stabilize our country. And when they say innocent protesters, I kept asking myself, how innocent is somebody who is carrying, you know, deadly, you know, weapons, you understand, and other deadly materials. So what I'm trying to say is, Nigerian armed forces and other security agencies will not in any way, okay? We have a doctrine, we have, you know, rules of engagement which will always guide us to do or to conduct or to carry out our operations anywhere, either conventionally or asymmetrically, or as the case may be, in inter-security situations. And the IPOB issue he raised, I don't want to go into that because we are one nation, okay? To start with, why should groups or somebody destroy his own house because of anything? Why should somebody why should a citizen not to, you know, go on peacefully, you know, and act in such a manner that will portray the country in a very good light? Why must you form yourself, you know, as a belligerent against the system, against a constituted authority? Why should you even do that? So these are some of the things which we are even asking. The issue of saying that I was in Port Harcourt sometime last 2 weeks when the IPOB and some other group were protesting, okay? For good 6 hours they spent doing that. There was no single shot fired, either from the army or from the police. You understand? Because of obvious reasons. We are in any internal security operations that is what we refer to as minimum use or minimum use of force, and that's what has been guiding our operation internally. So the following day they said about 20 people, IPO members were killed. I was just laughing. So what I'm trying to say is we should not in any way politicize the issue of security. This is our nation, this is our country, and the better we start thinking nationally, the better for us. These divisive tendencies which could not take us anywhere. And the military and other security agents must ensure that this country remains a strong united nation, and free from all myriad of security challenges. And that is our strategic objective of doing whatever we do. Whatever we do, we are doing it for the national interest of this country. But accusations or sharing of blame that you have done this, you have done that, I think is untimely. It's not the best for now. We are not in any way taking or killing anybody as they alleged. We are there to ensure that there is security and protection of innocent citizens, because it's not everybody that is a IPO member. Okay. You understand? So there must be that we must be seeing, creating that conducive atmosphere for people, innocent people, to carry on with their own businesses unharmed. You understand? And that's what we are doing. Okay. Nothing more than that. Whatever we do is for the national interest and security interest of this nation.
Okay, Brigadier General Abubakar, we'll need you to be brief on this because we're running out of time. And by the way, just to also inform you that we had extended invitation to Amnesty International Group. They had indicated, of course, interest to be part of this conversation. But just late last night, words got back to us that, of course, they turned down the offer. We had expected that they'll be here, but they are not. So now, there was a particular picture that they painted in their report of an IPOB, member, who was arrested by the military in the course of the protest. And he actually had, according to the report, had a phone conversation with the wife, and just before he allegedly was shot by the military. Now, when you do have such, reports from Amnesty, how do you investigate that? It has to do with a phone conversation, which makes investigation much easier.
No, you see, let's not bring sentiment into all these issues of security. When we're talking about national security, it supersedes any other things that we should be engaging into. Okay? What could have been the cause of what happened? And remember, this is ICT period. We're in ICT time. Anything can happen. Anybody can do anything to prevent anything, for the purpose best known to him, or to realize its own aims and objectives. You understand? We cannot see just one person, okay? It's not in our doctrine to arrest or to kill or to mine. What we do is to ensure that all parts of the country is protected, and that's why we are putting in place all our personnel all over the place to ensure that there is such security of lives and property. So for somebody just to come and say, through conversation, which can always be done, can always be detected, can always be framed off, to say this is what happened, I think is very much unacceptable. And I think it's not something which we should, come here and start talking, because we are not doing what they say we do. Okay, if they do, let's bring, where are the cops? Where is the cops of the person who will kill? You understand? And the cops too. Okay? So all these things is a scenario which they are just trying to, bring sentiment to all these things, to paint the security apparatus as if they are against them. No, as I said, no security agencies in this country that are hired by the government to protect lives and property that could go around and do a contrary.
All right, General Rabi Abubakar, thank you very much. Just to return to Mr. Tony Ojukwu of the National Human Rights Commission. In one of your earlier salvos, you did indicate that over a period of time, perhaps 2016, up to the end of 2016, your commission had received some 1,000 complaints with regard to
1 million.
A million. Yeah. A million complaints. I don't know how you process all of those ones, whether you run them through a system. Sorry, 1 million complaints on account of increased human rights awareness in the country. Now, is the commission also receiving reports with regard to human rights issues on account of the military now being more frequently engaged in internal security matters? And if so, what are the nature of the issues you're raising?
Of course, one of the consequences of the military involvement in civil operations is that there is more friction, because if the military was only restricted to the northeast, the military is almost more than 2/3 of the states. There's either Boko Haram in one side, there's kidnapping in one side, there's militancy in the other side. There is, and so that means the military is in constant interaction and tension with the people. So it will also reflect in the number of complaints that will come, the number of violations that will come, and so on and so forth. Now, the culture of human rights we want to project is a situation where the military is now more conscious of human rights in the way they interface with ordinary civilians, since they are now in more contact with civilians. The impression we have is that it is not the official policy of the Nigerian army to violate the human rights of the civilians, or of the military to violate the human rights of citizens. But there are individual issues with individual officers in the Nigerian army who at one time or the other, or the Nigerian military, who at one time or the other, exude some untoward behavior. And if such cases are reported, we have a platform with which we discuss these issues with the Nigerian army, with the Nigerian military, and make sure that those people are held responsible. There were cases reported in Makurdi, where some people were shot. There was the case of Dangote Cement in Makurdi, which I personally went and investigated. So when those cases come, we now engage the Nigerian army on them, and they are willing. But you see, it's not a perfect situation. Like this issue of engagement of people who are protesting, I would want to look forward to a situation where we totally leave the military regime, where every form of protest or assembly is seen as attack on government. For instance, there is no reason why the military or the police should not give protection to people who are protesting or demonstrating or airing their views, to make sure that they don't turn rioters, to make sure that they don't start degenerating into looting of the public, and so on and so forth. We look at demonstrations in other parts of the country like United States and Europe. You will never see this kind of situation that degenerates here. Okay. But the mindset of the law enforcement agencies must change from seeing every little demonstration or dissent of opinion as an attack on government, because the Constitution guarantees people's right to freedom of expression, freedom of assembly, and even different opinion.
Okay, we'll get back to you for the last comment. Let's get the reaction of Mr. Kwanum. Mr. Kwanum, do you think that the military has usurped, sorry, let me withdraw that word, has been involved too much in internal security matters?
No, my background is from the civil society, and with civil society, we are always out on the street protecting human rights, abuses, and certain interests. And the way we conduct ourselves, the military are not always involved in our protests. Sometimes we even do them even without the police. But this particular issue that has to do with the report, like earlier when I was addressing this issue, the issue of iPod, that protest in Onitsha was to be a peaceful protest, and nobody was objecting IPOB from doing that protest. But the police officers that were to monitor that protest, they killed two. Two were dropped into River Niger. And in this process of that protest, a military personnel was killed. The spokesman of the military is here. If it's the wrong information, he should counter it. They killed the military person in that protest. So in that situation, how will you expect the military not to come in? Because if police are sent there, they were killed, who else should come there?
But you didn't know by their training, the military duty is to shoot and kill.
Huh?
By their training, the military's duty is to shoot and kill.
No. The military has not been shooting and killing people during protests. They are the last resort. Once you are on the street doing protests, obviously you first see civil defense people. They will come. If the pressure on them is more, you will see the police will come with the water tank. It is when even is beyond that. You see a brigade of guards. They will come. They are the last resort.
All right, Mr. Kwanam, thank you.
For that particular protest, I'm mentioning that protest because it's a protest our banditry are investigated.
Mr. Terence,
we lost our security personnel in that district. And it's only in Nigeria that a military personnel, a police officer will be gunned down by civilians, and this thing will be taken as a joke and bringing politics into it. You cannot do that with U.S. Marine. You cannot do that with British Army.
Mr. Kwanam, thank you. You've made your point. We'll quickly like to take more tweets that have come in. And just before we have the last word from the Brigadier General here with us. Kingsley.
That's right. Mansouri tweets, where was Amnesty International when over 2,000 people killed by Boko Haram in Baga, and they are only now trying to demoralize the Nigerian military?
And Kolo Ibrahim, why is Amnesty not reporting the atrocities of Boko Haram and other terrorists? Give the patriotic Nigerian army a bad name?
Dele Jack Solomon, my distinguished moderators, Amnesty International can't claim 100% accuracy in this report. Nevertheless, some items are true. That's according to Jack Solomon.
Okay, and Tanko Mohammed tweets, Amnesty International are always against Nigeria. How can they be repeating the same report at all times?
Lawrence Idoko, some questions. Now, who is sponsoring Amnesty International? Why are they not on the program today? Now, we have explained that. That's what we need to restate this. Amnesty International was invited to be part of the conversation this morning. They had accepted to be here, but last night they indicated that they would not be available, and that's why they are not here.
All right, of course, there was no reason given to that. Ben Moore tweets, I have said it before that all Amnesty International do is to go online, read whatever they like, and come out and now come out to make noise, to make news.
All right, so those are the tweets that we're taking. Just to get a closer thoughts of the Acting Director of Defense Information. There's some, this is probably not new. We saw what happened a few years ago, just in the early stages of the engagement with Boko Haram. There were reports that, there were violations of human rights by the Nigerian military, and that some persons will have to be taken to ICC to account for it. What does a report of this nature often do to the morale of your men and officers?
Yeah, that's why we said this kind of report negates not just the concept of the efforts we are putting in, but it negates the concept of national security. You understand? Because by the time you start giving out a report to the extent of writing to the ICC, it is the same ICC who exonerated Nigerian armed forces in 2015. So it is very, a sort of contradiction on the part of Amnesty to come up with a report, because I believe ICC is more recognized, internationally, and notably than Amnesty. So this kind of thing has a negative impact of the military, and the other security agencies there. However, we will remain focused to ensure that we have, or we will do this our country proud by continuously eliminating the menace of, terrorism and other allied security challenges. And that is our focus, and we remain focused irrespective of the report coming from this, Amnesty, who has no regard, who is not even organized nationally or internationally, just trying to foil an ember of hatred against ourselves, Nigerians.
Right.
They're Nigerians. So we will do everything possible to ensure that we follow our doctrine, we follow our rules of engagement in whatever operations we engage. And that's principally what we are going to be doing.
All right. Brigadier General Rabe Abubakar, Acting Director of Defense Information, would like to thank you for sharing your thoughts with us on the program today. Appreciation also goes to Mr. Tony Ojukwu of the National Human Rights Commission. Thank you for your time and contribution. In addition to Mr. Terence Kwanom of the Global Amnesty Watch, no relation to Amnesty International. Thank you for being here with us on the program today. All right. Okay, that does it for our discussion segment. Claire.
Yes, and just before we take our complimentary parts of the program, earlier on we gave you a breaking news coming out from the police headquarters. It says in the early hours of this morning, Henry Chibueze, alias Vampire, who is a notorious kidnapping kingpin, recently escaped from the custody of prison warders in a court in Owerri. Of course, has been killed. According to the police spokesman, Jimo Moshood, Vampire was killed at about 1 a.m. this morning in a forest in the Ikwerre local government area of Rivers State during a gun battle with police special forces. The report also says that 5 members of the gang were also arrested and are now in police custody. And that's the end of the breaking news.
All right, Claire, if you recall, some years ago there was another notorious kidnapping kingpin. I think his name was Osisi Kanku.
Osisi Kanku.
Osisi Kanku. You know, he was, I think, after he met his Waterloo, unfortunately his body was put on public display to reassure everyone that that was the end. But that does it for our breaking news as well as conversation segment. Let's move on very quickly now to our sports desk to get some stories from sports.